please welcome the incredibly talented Lindsay Tigar.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, I love how we came together. It was Joanna Lord, right?
Yep, through the also incredible Joanna Lord,
Yeah.
such a superstar, and also a mom. I feel like we're all in this
Yeah.
new community together.
Yes, that's right. Because how old? She had a daughter, right?
Yep,
Or-
2 months before I did. Her daughter's
Oh,
just a
no
little bit
way.
older than mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you guys used to work together, right?
Yes, so we worked together at ClassPass. I was
Mm.
employee 39 many years ago. And Joanna came in as our CMO for
Okay.
ClassPass. I think it was in 2016 or 2017, somewhere around there. But I was
Wow.
their editorial director, the first one. So it was
And
exciting. It was the best job. You could just wear workout leggings every day to work. And
seriously.
then you were encouraged to take a workout in the morning or as your afternoon break and lots of healthy snacks. Pretty much just the best job that you could have had.
That sounds perfect. How big is the company now? Do you know?
I'm not sure. They were one of the first unicorns in 2020, but
Mm.
then of course we all know what happened in 2020 and studio fitness changed. They were bought by Mind Body, I think in
Mm.
2021.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure how they carried people over from there.
Yeah. Cool. It was a great product. I never used it. I don't even know if they had it in Canada. Maybe they did.
We
They
did. I
did.
don't know
Okay.
if I mean, maybe I think Toronto.
Yeah. I lived there briefly from 2006 to like 2010
Oh, okay.
or
I've
2005 to
only
2010.
been to Montreal. I loved Montreal though.
Oh, well, that's a great city to come to in Canada. Montreal's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Such rich history there and culture. So tell
Yeah.
us, what
Yes.
do you do?
So I am the founder of the Tiger Agency, named after my last name, of course. I'm also a freelance journalist, so I write for pretty much every publication that you can think of. You can see some National Geographic bylines up there right behind me. And I've been doing this basically my whole life. I decided to be a journalist when I was 5 and built my career from there. So it's been a lifelong dream to do exactly what I do every single day. Also, the biggest part of my job, or a second biggest part, is I'm also now a mom. My daughter's 14 months, and learning how to navigate the new normal that is being a working professional, an entrepreneur, and a mom all at the same time.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's probably harder than running a business.
Oh, much harder and much more emotionally draining. I think that's the reality of it. Someone once said to me, becoming a mom is a job where you have zero training, but it's the highest stakes ever because someone could die. And so
So
you
true.
just have to step into the role and act like you know what you're doing. So,
Yeah. I think we just kind of figure it out on the way
oh,
every day.
definitely. Yeah, and
Every
every
day
day is
there's a new
different.
challenge. Yeah. Yeah, like
And
this
as soon
morning
as
my son goes to an outdoor school and it's really hot here. It's like 30 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit,
it's
but
hot. Yeah.
it's hot and it's sunny and I'm like, "Hey, Noah, you should probably put on some sunscreen today." He goes, "I'm fine. It's not that hot out and plus we're not even outside that much." I'm like, "You go to an outdoor school. Like you're outside." And we've done this before and he's come back burnt a couple times, but he's not the kind of kid
Oh
that burns a
no.
lot. But there was part of me that's like, is this the lesson where you allow the kid to go to school without sunblock and he comes back burnt? Or is this the lesson where you just put it on them anyway? And I
Yeah.
debated this for like 20 minutes this morning.
It's crazy how much of your mental space parenting takes up. Josephine got bit by a kid yesterday in school. They were fighting over a chair, apparently. Josephine wanted to climb on the chair, and the other kid wanted to sit in the chair. And so she got bit. And so we had to sign an incident report yesterday. Like, we have to acknowledge that your daughter got bit. I'm like, cool.
Mhm.
That's a new thing that I didn't think I would have to think about.
Yeah, and it happens a lot. And then the worst is when they're the ones that were the instigators.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it will.
Ugh,
I'm very much,
yeah.
it's going to happen sooner or later.
Well, I mean, in your position, it's great that it, in a way, happened to her first. Now she understands how it feels to be on that side.
Right.
So hopefully it
Yeah,
stops her
maybe.
from being the aggressor. Who knows? Right?
I mean, if she's got some of my spunk, who knows what's ahead of her in her lifetime.
Well, that's good. We need that. Okay, so then your business, tell us about exactly what you do, your offer, and who you serve.
So, the Tiger Agency is an editorial first content marketing agency for lifestyle brands. We really focus on compelling storytelling content marketing, which is a fancy way to say all of our content is written by professional journalists, but we really take a data approach to creating content. So that might look like doing an SEO audit. That might be doing a temperature check of your industry and your landscape, making sure that you're ready to be media facing. Much of our offerings focus on SEO content development, ghostwriting, executive branding, LinkedIn optimization, all of the different components that help you use content to tell your story effectively and also to meet your goals within marketing.
And then how'd you get into this?
Oh, it's a fun story. So, like I said, I've wanted to be a writer since I was 5. I used to interview people at the grocery store when I was a kid, and I would go home and write stories about them and read them out loud to my mom. So writing has always been very natural to me, something I really enjoy. I feel like I'm one of those really lucky people who looks forward to her job almost every single day when she wakes up. So I started in journalism. I had a few internships before I graduated college. I moved to New York like a true New York story, with no job, no apartment, $3,000 to my name, and just decided I was going to figure it out. I slept on the couch of a friend who I knew through a mutual acquaintance. And within 2 weeks, I landed this kind of like an apartment shared situation in Harlem. So I had my own apartment that was furnished, but a shared bathroom. And I got my first job into journalism. And then from there, my career really changed. I did a lot of work within B2B journalism. And then I worked for NBC, for today.com, and then for iVillage, which is sadly no longer around. From there, I pivoted to ClassPass, where I became their editorial and content marketer. And that's really where I learned the fundamentals and the foundation of content marketing and really made that switch. Another reason I made that switch is I wanted to be able to freelance for different publications. And often, when you're a journalist who writes for one publication, you have a non compete, so you can't write for other ones. So I wanted to expand my portfolio. After 3 years at ClassPass, I was given the opportunity to join Remote Year, which is also a company that's changed quite a bit in the last couple of years. But when I was part of it in 2017, 2018, it was where you would travel with about a group of 30 to 50 people around the world for a year, living 1 month in each country. I ended up seeing 25 plus countries over 18 months. And so once I returned stateside, I deeply invested into my company. And since then, it's really grown. We've been really lucky to work with inspiring entrepreneurs, mostly women, which I love, and really creates exciting and engaging, compelling content for them.
Tell us an exciting story, like a company you've worked for that you're allowed to share and the stuff that you
That I'm
do.
allowed to share. Well, one interesting one, I worked with Cocoa Beans, which is a crib sheet company. It's like luxury, high end. The founder created it because her daughter had frizzy hair and really sensitive skin. And so the normal sheets that you would buy for a baby that you would find on like Target or, any wholesale resale company, would just really cause her daughter's hair to be frizzy or it would give her a rash. And so she set out, like all entrepreneurs do, to solve something within their life. So she came to us really wanting, she had website copy, she had some blog copy, but none of it was really compelling. It wasn't really moving the numbers. It wasn't helping her to be able to move her brand in the direction that she wanted to be, which of course was to boost sales and also to become a thought leader within this baby space and specifically within this like very niche skincare, hair care type of industry. So we came in and we did an SEO audit. We rewrote 3 or 4, I think it was 3 of her pages, all of the product pages for her actual products. And because of our work, actually, now whenever you go to find her, she outranks her Amazon listing, which might not seem like a big deal, but it's a very big deal. And it also is the number one driver of sales. So that means people are finding this content and taking an action because it's so compelling. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that new companies make or lifestyle companies make is they don't give enough of that story. But if you think about why you make a purchase, it's often because you're motivated to find a solution, especially in the lifestyle space. So, an example might be my daughter um, really is in this stage where she likes to put toys into containers. So it could be anything. It can be a drawer, it could be a bowl, anything. And so as a mom, you're going to Google, how do I find toys like this that help her continue to learn? Or I have acne. And so I want to find products that are good for anti aging, but good for acne. So I don't get too dried out, but I don't get too oily. And so if you can tell that story for a brand on why they decided to start this company, you engage emotion within them, which is part of that storytelling content marketing. And that helps them to make the purchase and become a big fan of your company.
So I have two questions about this. One is, define us, what exactly is content marketing?
Right. So it's a marketing approach that uses engaging, compelling content to tell a story, tell a brand vision, boost sales. You can think of it as this all encompassing umbrella. There's lots of parts of it. You can think of it as blog content, website content, social content, newsletter content. Content's a big word for a lot of things, but what we focus on is what's on your website, what's in your newsletter, and what stories you're telling the media.
I love it. Okay, and then what is the storytelling component? Explain that.
Sure. So my company, what sets us apart is we're all journalists. So I'm a journalist. I've been freelancing for 15 plus years. All of the writers who work with my company, they are also journalists. I think collectively, I counted at one time, we have written for 56 plus publications if you combine all of our bylines together. And all of the big ones, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, Travel and Leisure, Real Simple, all of the big publications you can think of. So why that is important is it gives us the competitive edge that we know how to interview people. Often founders really struggle with telling their own story. I struggle sometimes with telling my own story, and that's what I do for a living. And so we know how to ask the right questions to get the right answers that really sets the content apart and makes it feel like you're reading a story versus what a lot of agencies will do is just stuff a bunch of keywords into a paragraph, have it sound like a computer wrote it, which is a trend right now. But there's a big difference being able to craft a compelling narrative.
Okay, well, let's just touch on the Chat GPT for a minute because I know that's trending. It ain't going anywhere. And you being in content as well as in journalism, what exactly is going on here? Because I see people that are like, oh, it's going to take over our jobs. And I think there's parts of it that have taken over jobs. I see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, we see it as a friend. We don't see it as a competitor. It's an aid. It's definitely a writing aid within research. I use it a lot to research different things. I also use it to help me outline different pieces of content if I'm unsure of how I'm going to go about it. Um, in my industry in journalism, it's actually been outlawed. Almost all of the publications that I write for have sent memos to their writing team, letting them know that you cannot use Chat GPT. One of the big reasons for that is the risk of plagiarism. Just because it creates content for you, it does not mean that is original content. It could give the same piece of writing to 20,000 different people. Another fascinating learning that just from playing around with ChatGPT is we ask it to write a bio on my husband. The reason we did that is because if you Google me, you will come up with all sorts of things, and it's fairly easy to write a bio about me. My husband, on the other hand, is not a public figure. He works in a pretty private industry. He's not really on social media except whenever I tag him. So we had it write something about him. And what it came up with was one, completely inaccurate. And two, when it provided sources, it actually made up website links that just don't exist. And so if you were to click on those, it's not an actual source, it's not an actual website. And so one of the big limitations of AI in its form now is that if it doesn't know something, it makes it up. And that could be content, that could also be a link. So you still need journalists, you still need writers who know how to fact check, who know how to look up stats, um, and can do the hard work that's behind the algorithm. It also
So,
hasn't been updated since 2021, which is important to
oh,
note.
wow.
So a lot has
Well, isn't
happened.
there Chat GPT like 4.0? Isn't that new?
There, it's new, but it's still there's still a lot of the same limitations.
Wow. So I think of like ChatGPT as a man and Siri as a woman because I know when you ask Siri a question she doesn't know the answer to, what is she going to say?
She
I
says,
don't
I
know
don't
the
know.
answer to that.
Absolutely accurate.
ChatGPT is like, I'm just going to give you something that sounds good and you can go with it.
It was wild. Like the link that it provided was basically my husband's company backslash his name, which does not exist for any of their employees. It's a completely made up linkage.
I want to go to this right now. So if you're listening and you have ChatGPT, go to ChatGPT. And then what were the prompts for you to do you just
We ask to write a executive biography. That's one of the services that my company offers
okay.
about you, about some professional. And even when I had it write about me, which I am a very public figure, very
Yep.
Googleable, I've got that true verification on Instagram that I didn't pay for. Um,
No money spent there. I remember when you told
yeah,
me when you got that. I feel like you got that before you could even pay for it.
yeah, I got it almost 8 months ago. Um, but yeah, so whenever it even got it wrong about me, with lots of information readily available on the internet. So,
It's currently now writing my bio for me.
oh,
It's very long. And there's words in here that I wouldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole.
no,
So that's
yeah.
that's taking the emotion, the real like Renee out of the bio. It's still going.
And it's the storytelling component, right? Like ChatGPT will create paragraphs, but it doesn't create an engaging introduction. It doesn't create all the different components that you need to write smart content.
No.
And it
And
doesn't consider SEO either, which is also important.
this is well, what's interesting is like I have a Google alerts for my name and I don't come up often, but I do come up because there's a woman that lives in Alabama that has the same name as me that keeps getting arrested.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like I get Google alerts from it. I'm like, "Girl, you need to talk to somebody. Could you please stop getting arrested?"
That's hilarious. It could not be more opposite from you.
No, I know. I was like, "Well, maybe there's some days some of my thoughts would definitely get me arrested." Um, but so I love it how you say it's your friend. I say Chat GPT is a thought expediter. And here's how we use
Yeah.
it really quickly is that we'll be like, we have like our blog ideas that we need to write about, which we end up using for solo episodes. And I'll be like, hey, Chat GPT, write me 4 topic ideas about, and we'll throw in certain keywords. And then it's like, yep, here are some ideas. Cool. We'll take that. Hey, Chat GPT, write me a blog post outline with this about this topic. And then you get the outline. 90% of the time it's very robotic, it's very expected, the words, the
Yep.
how they use the words, everything. um, but we use it as an absolute minimal foundation for creating the
Hmm.
content. It's
And
like
that's
we
sort
would
of
have come
how
up
we
with that
think about it
outline,
too.
we would come up with the outline anyway. It's just they did it, that robot did it for us faster.
And I think of it's almost a similar way of you think of ChatGPT as an intern, as a very entry level intern. You have to teach it so many things. And it's not even the great intern that you end up hiring, right? It is just the first step into getting to the end product. So it can save time, but in a lot of ways, it can also create a lot of time. What we're finding in the content marketing world is a lot of content marketers, some of their anchor clients have decided, let's try ChatGPT. And then they come back a couple months later and they say, actually, this isn't working and we do need a writer, or they want to hire a content marketer and then they just want to hire them to edit the chat gpt content, which actually takes far more work and far more time than it would just be to create the content from scratch.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you a story kind of related to that, but not really. Is when we decided to write a book. Well, I was writing this book because I thought at the time we had an incredible blog, lots of traffic, lots of engagement. This was back in like 2017, 2016. And I was like, let's take all of our top performing blog posts and kind of stitch them together, put it into a book, and it's what everybody needs. It's beautiful. You don't write a book like that because a book
No.
actually has to follow a sequence.
Yeah.
And whether it's a fiction or nonfiction, it has to have some sort of sequence. And so we ended up rewriting this book completely several times because we did it backwards, completely
Yeah,
backwards.
definitely. It's also something to think about when it comes to um, what ChatGPT does is because it's duplicate content and you can't necessarily like make sure that it's not plagiarized, you end up getting a website that just sounds like the same thing
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Which, if
Mhm.
someone goes to your website to validate you, which often professionals of the media will do if you are pitching yourself, they won't really understand what you're offering, and it will
Yeah.
feel like an inauthentic website.
I love using it for is sometimes when you write a title for an article or something and you're like, it's almost there, but there's one word that's just missing. There's something that's missing in it. And I do this for press releases. And I'll throw some questions into Chat GPT and I was like, hey, no, and like refresh, or you can get like three different searches or something to look for that word. And it's like, oh, that's the word I wanted. So it's almost
Yeah,
like it's helping you brainstorm.
it's a thesaurus.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's a great way of putting it with a male attitude.
Yeah. Not your favorite thesaurus, but
Not
one from
necessarily.
like 1990s.
It is kind of cool though. I mean, if you've never tried it out before, it's so cool. This is one little tiny nugget of what AI is. There's so much stuff out there. Like um these videos now that people it's just fascinating what people are doing, like recreating videos and it looks like it's really Trump walking around or something.
Yeah.
Or
I
people are
use
actually
Otter. I also
okay.
use Otter for transcribing. So, Otter AI will transcribe a Zoom call in real time, which is very helpful. Or you can upload an interview. And of course, it's not 100% right, but it does make it a lot faster to go through the process of transcription.
100%. Yeah. Well, so we're using Riverside to record and you get a transcription almost right away too when it's done.
Oh, perfect.
It's pretty
Yeah.
neat. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on from ChatGPT. I highlighted it as this something maybe we'll touch on, and we ended up
And there we
touching on it,
talked
but I'm
about
glad
it.
we did. There, now it's done. Check. Okay. So, um, I'm going to jump into this stuff. I really want to dive deep into your expertise in journalism, and how it relates to content marketing because there's a huge overlap, right? How
Yeah.
does content marketing play a factor in media mentions?
So the way that I like to think about content marketing is it's almost what you need to do first before you start pitching the media, or in a best case scenario, while working with a PR professional. And so what my agency will often do is partner with PR agencies to help their client get media ready. And so a reason you want to do that, example from just my day-to-day life, I don't do as much freelance journalism as I used to. I'm busy running an agency and chasing a toddler around. But I still get 300 pitches every single day, if not more, just because I've been in the industry for such a long time. And so once I actually decide, okay, this client, this product, this something is interesting, let me look into this person, the first thing I'm going to do is click on their website, right? I'm going to go to their website. I'm going to see what they're all about, what they're going to offer. I'm going to see what kind of expertise they actually have. What are their credentials? What have they written? How's their website laid out? Are they on social media? It's a way of fact checking a person, a
Mm,
product, an offering. Might also read some reviews, just get a sense of who they are. So what often will happen is I will go to a website and there's just not enough information there. It's poorly laid out. If I go and search, so someone's pitching me eye creams, we'll just come up with that. So eye creams, and I pitch probably 150 eye creams if I'm writing an eye cream story, right? And so if I'm comparing them, I'm going to go with the website that has a lot more information, that seems to come up in Google searches, that seems to have some client reviews, some celebrity endorsements, whatever, versus a new upcoming eye cream that might be better actually, but they're not telling their story in a compelling way.
mm.
And
It's
so
so
how that
interesting.
plays a part is content marketing sets you up for success because it gets your website ready. It helps you come up with an editorial strategy. One of the biggest mistakes that people often make with SEO and content marketing in general is they think it's this one-time upfront cost and then their website's done, but it should be ever evolving. You should have an editorial calendar. You should stay on top of all of the different days of the week, whenever it's like bring your dog to work day or ice cream scoop day or whatever the random day is, because those are all opportunities to engage with your clients and engage with potential customers. So content marketing strategy takes that into consideration. And specifically with our agency, because we know the editorial calendars that coincide. So when the beauty awards are happening, when you should be pitching for Father's Day, when you should be pitching for XYZ. So we use that expertise to guide our strategy, along with, the SEO research that helps it to
Yes.
rank.
It's huge. So when I had my agency, we did content marketing, PR, and social media because it all worked together. We called it the PR engine.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I can't tell you the big home runs we got for our client, which we kind of put under the PR silo, was really a result from an incredible content marketing strategy. This was like
Yeah.
we ghost wrote for one of our clients. He was a contributor for Business Insider Forbes. He had beautiful LinkedIn articles. Stuff got syndicated to Yahoo Finance and MSN and here and there. And so that elevated his profile, it elevated his authority and credibility so that we can use that so that when we actually went to pitch, it's like, look at all the places that have mentioned him already that had almost nothing to do with the tactics of PR.
Yeah, and it also positions them as an expert, which I think is something that people forget is so valuable within this space. So as journalism changes, right? Journalism now is highly based on SEO keywords and affiliate marketing, which we could have an entire other
Mm-hmm.
podcast episode about. But because of that, those days of getting standalone features in a publication, they still happen, but they're not as common and they're not as easy to get. And so often what you can do to get more mentions for your client is position them as an expert. So the eye cream example again. So a dermatologist founded this company, created this eye cream. Rather than getting the product featured 100 times, what she can do is become an expert and then get featured all these stories 100 times, and have that content on her website. And so it really is very versatile. It's multi-purpose. You can use it across so many different mediums.
So
One
you
of our
right now,
oh,
oh, you go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say one of our clients, our past clients, was a skincare company founded by two best friends, one of them being a celebrity. And their whole approach was simplifying skincare. And one of the things that we did for them is really create this ritual newsletter. And so it would focus on the routines and the rituals because their whole thing was about having a simplified routine for different influential people. So it might be a nutritionist, it might be an influencer, it could be a personal trainer, a psychologist, anyone within that sort of their mecca of people and community. And so that newsletter was great because it engaged a whole different level of people who maybe aren't so interested in skincare, but really want to know about routines. And then by reading about this, they ask, well, who is this company? Let me go look at their website. And then when they would go to the website, they would find all of the blog content and learn more about the products.
Totally. It's about serving. If we could all just put on that hat where everything we do in our business needs about serving our ideal customer or even just like the periphery of that, it's a game changer for business.
Making it
Um,
easier or making solving a problem. Those are the two
yeah,
things.
exactly. So right now you have a call out. This is kind of like, well, at the time of this recording, it's like a now thing, but you're looking for OBGYNs to write an article.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I want to use this as an example of how you're going to approach this. So in this instance, you'll get probably by the time we're done recording, you'll open up your inbox to probably somewhere of what 50 to 100 pitches.
Oh, I've already received everything I need, and it was like
Okay,
within an
so
hour frame. Yeah.
yes, so the timing is
Yeah.
another thing, but that's why I say like always be on it when these opportunities come in. What were the ones that stood out? And then when you did open their email and you went to their site, what was the thing that made it a hell yes for you?
So OBGYN is difficult. It's like a tricky one, right? Because you really do have to be an OBGYN. So I would say 20% of the pitches I got, they weren't an OBGYN, which just irritated me and I deleted it, right? That was just the response that you have from that. And then I would say another 20% of them didn't want to respond to the prompts of which I have for these publications. And so they said, oh, can we talk about this instead? Which again, super annoying because I have deadlines and I'm not interested in another angle right now. But then the rest of them, if they worked for a reputable company or a reputable practice, if they had already been mentioned in other publications, because then you know that they have experience with journalists. And then, of course, just providing really thorough, thoughtful answers is so important. I think a lot of times within the journalism space and in the content marketing space, which is why people often hire us, again, they struggle to tell their story. And so the reason for engaging with an expert is to provide information you can't just Google and find yourself. And so a recent story, not this OBGYN one, was about incidental exercise. And so I was asking if experts could provide examples of incidental exercise, which is something like walking from your car to the grocery store, or planting, or chasing your toddler. It's ways that you're getting your heart rate up without really trying, so it's incidental within your everyday routine. But if you just say those exact things as I just laid them out, I can't use that as expert commentary. And so oftentimes within content marketing or journalism, you know your stuff so well that you just kind of say it, but you really have to provide that meat and that information that captivates the reader and gives them what they need to know to make a decision and to ultimately make a purchase or read the article or otherwise engage with the content.
Right. And so you craft these stories so that these experts and these companies can just go and grab that from their like deposit of your wisdom. And now they have a
Yeah.
story to share.
And I think, I do think it's important to note is that I don't work with clients in my journalism capacity. It's kind of like church and state. You have to keep them separate because ethically it just wouldn't be appropriate for me to work with a client who I've also quoted in an article. So they really are different things, but they are very similar in a lot of ways and how they are successful and how they're executed.
Totally. So what do you see as a very common mistake that founders make when it comes to content marketing?
Like I was saying, like they think it's a one-time investment. You just get it up and you don't engage with readers anymore. You don't have an ongoing strategy. So making sure that blog content is refreshed, making sure you're constantly playing with your SEO. So one thing that we like to do is we say we nurture the content. Maybe that just comes from being a mom, but in our practice, we will do a monthly SEO report for all of our clients. And so we might say, hey, Renee, this blog post that you wrote 3 years ago is suddenly getting a lot of traffic. We're going to add 300 words to it. And then we're going to add these 10 links of media mentions that you've had since then. And then the next month, we'll see that get even more traffic. And so it's really this like ongoing nurturing of content. Also, just making content that isn't engaging or isn't relevant or doesn't pay attention to like current trends. So if you are a glitter company right now and you haven't written a blog post about Taylor Swift, you are missing out. Like it is like capitalizing on a golden opportunity.
Why? What happened with Taylor Swift and glitter?
Well, it's the Era concert, so everyone is like doused in glitter when they go to these
Oh,
concerts.
okay.
Or if you're someone who owns a clear bag company and you haven't written a blog post about Taylor Swift, like you have to think about what's getting all of the attention right now and then use it to your advantage, which is what content marketing does.
That's why so this is why you need to hire the experts because they are on the ball when it comes to this stuff because they know what's going to work and they know the timeliness to this content. Like I'd say we could make this whole episode about ChatGPT, but guess what? People are they're already over it.
Yeah.
That ship has
Yeah.
sailed and now we're moving on to the next thing.
And I also think with content marketing, part of my job is to stay relevant as a journalist, right? Like
Mhm.
that's my whole job. And so that really plays a factor into the content marketing that we pitch to our clients because they might say, hey, like it's June 12th and we really need to write, a blog post on Father's Day. And I'll say, well, we should have gotten that up like a month ago. And so it's really having that person who can focus on it and a strategic partner to help you understand when's the right time to do XYZ.
Yeah, I always use the example of Valentine's Day because all that stuff comes out before Christmas. People are like, but I haven't even shopped for Christmas yet. I'm like, well, while you're there, top out for Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Why do they do that? Why does this stuff publish so far in advance?
for SEO. That's the whole point.
Right.
So you want to be first. You want to be the first one to be published so that when you Google Valentine's Day gifts for him or Valentine's Day gifts for your first anniversary together or something like that, you're the first one that gets up.
And so when it
And
comes
it's
to
this it's the same example. So like say you publish that and it starts getting traffic, the SEO team at that publication will say, hey, we need to add 10 more gifts. We need to add more content to that.
Ooh.
And
Okay,
then
so
this one isn't selling, so let's like replace it with something else.
okay, so there's still opportunity to be added to a list if it's been published.
Potentially, but that's
Okay,
usually you wouldn't pitch the writer, you'd pitch the editor.
the editor. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about back to school. And I like this example because I used to work with a company that had Staples as a client. And I would
Mm,
never want to work for Staples because the back to school season for them is their biggest season and they have to work through summer to get all of their stuff and
yeah.
promotions. So you don't get a summer. But because like school ends, we'll say like what, mid-June, late June, depending on where you are.
Hmm.
And then there's maybe 2 months. And back to school stuff starts when school's over.
Yeah, and it also starts even before that because Teacher Appreciation Day is often
Ah,
before that. Teacher Appreciation Week is right before school ends. And so, as of right now, you can think about like graduation gift guides are done, Father's Day gift guides are done, Teacher
mm,
Appreciation gift guides are done. And so, when you're thinking about the editorial calendar, you should be thinking about fun in the summer, staying engaged with your kids
mm.
during the summer, making sure they're, education, staying cool in the summer. Like there's just all these different ones. And then I think publications will start thinking about back to school probably in like late June, early July, somewhere around there. And also, sadly, I think Amazon has kind of taken over when it comes to much of the back to school stuff because it's just so much easier
Oh,
for working moms to just order and have it
oh
there
my
the
gosh.
next day.
Totally. I know there's a lot of love hate about Amazon, but let me tell you, there's people that are crushing it on there. They're crushing it. So, how
Yeah.
far in advance does it, when it comes from, we'll just use writing blogs as an example, although we know
Yeah.
content marketing involves so much more. How far in advance should we be publishing content relevant to a certain theme or holiday?
Should be publishing about a month in advance, but you should be planning it about 3 months in advance.
Ooh,
So
why
we
so
try
long?
to work with our clients 3 months in advance because that gives us an opportunity to see. So, if you look at the Father's Day SEO traffic in March, it's going to be a lot different than what it is in June. And so, what that gives us an opportunity to do is to take a look at it before and see the historical data. And then within a couple of months, say, okay, this is what actually people are searching for now. So, let's go and add something and give that extra little boost that it needs. And it gives you time, honestly. Like a lot of our clients are, mid-sized. They're not like newbies. They're not the Pelotons of the world. They are somewhere in that niche middle. Maybe they've had a round of funding. Maybe they're hoping to take it to the next level. And so they need time to execute on the design and on videos if they're going to create videos around that content to pitch it to the media. And so the further advanced you work, then the more time that they have to execute on all of the different pillars of marketing.
I love it. So, okay, I have one last question for you.
Yes.
I love you're like, what's coming? What's coming?
What's coming?
What is coming? When I ask you what it means to be a wild woman, what is that to you?
Wild woman. Oh, that's a fun question. I automatically think of my daughter, who is a very wild mini woman right now. But I think the biggest thing, being a wild woman in the state I am now, which is like a relatively new mom and a business owner, a freelancer, um, it's about giving yourself permission to adapt and to change as your career evolves. And I think a lot of times we think of, at least for me, I've always had this dream and this ambition of who I was going to be, what it was going to look like, how I was going to define my success. And then as my life changed, and I traveled for 18 months, and then I lived in a city, and then I moved out of the city, and then I got married and I had a baby, and I changed my agency, and all these things happened. And every time I had to pause and I had to say, okay, what does success mean now? And what's so wild about that is that women often we give ourselves a much harder time than anyone else in our life or our own worst critic. And so how wild of a concept is it that we say, "Hey, success in 2016 is not what success means to me right now." And those things can continuously change. What it meant for me a year ago isn't what it means for me now, and probably what it will mean for me in like 5 years from
Right? Just how your SEO strategy evolves, so does your
now.
success definition.
Yeah, and I think just giving yourself permission to change, it's okay. Like
Mhm.
where you were 10 years ago compared to where you are now. Like imagine if we held ourselves to those same standards. My 21-year-old self would be absolutely amazed at where I am right now.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine like what my 50-year-old self will feel
I
like
think
one
of
day.
the the images you share about your apartment, of your shared apartment in Harlem, and what that looked
Yeah.
like and how tiny that was compared to where you're at now.
Yeah, our house with a big backyard and a
Ugh,
pond and a playroom and,
right?
it's
Imagine
crazy.
going back to her and being like, "I'm gonna show you the future," and you might not believe it, but this is what it's gonna be, and just know the work along the way needs to happen. It's gonna suck, it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard, there's gonna days you're gonna cry, but it's gonna be worth it.
And I think just how both of those stages you're so happy. I was so happy then and I'm so happy
Mm,
now, but it's a different type of happiness.
yeah.
And just allowing yourself to feel those different things throughout time.
Well, I you inspire me, and I know that we work together on a different capacity, but you inspire me. And the few things that I love about you is that you're super organized. You know exactly what you're selling, your offer. You know exactly the result you get for your clients, and you are not afraid to ask for the money. And I said that to you before.
No.
There's some people that discount themselves and they discredit themselves from the beginning. They love what they do, but they don't sell it. And you're just like, "No, no, no. I know what I can do for you. Here it is, and this is how much it costs."
And you know what did well, thank you. It's very kind of you. I haven't always been that way. But also I think since becoming a mom, that's what changed it for me. I was like, oh no, no, no. I have limited hours in the day now because
Mhm.
she's in daycare and then she's out of daycare and like I have to be on in those times. And also, of course, we all work late at night sometimes, but I really try to not do that all the time. When it's necessary, of course I will do it. But it's you're going to pay me for that time because I have limited time now and I also know what I'm doing. I know that I can keep a human being alive, so I can do anything.
That is the miracle. That is the miracle. All right.
Yeah.
So if people want to go online to find you to understand a little bit more about your services, you got a shiny new minted website. You got to go
I
check it
do.
out.
I love my new website. Definitely a work of love to put that together. I utilized a lot of different females, which was amazing. I hired a lot of female contractors
Oh,
to make it a success. So
I love
you
it.
can go to the Tiger Agency. Tiger is spelled with an A, but pronounced like the animal. So Tigar. And then I am Lindsay, also with an A, Lindsay Tiger on Instagram. So either of
Yes.
those are
And
work.
all that is in the show notes. Well, Lindsay, this has been like hanging out, having coffee, catching up with an old buddy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.